Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Monster's Dead. It's Thursday night. The spooks have arrived. We've come upon the show that a lot of people have asked for, and we figure it's always good every now and then to talk about the shit you don't like, right? So today, we're going to talk about the 5 films that are very, very popular, that made lots of money, perhaps, or great critical acclaim, but we just don't give a damn at all, and we don't like them. So we've each picked out 5 of them. How we're going to work is we're each going to do 2 at a time and go round and round until we get to our top. Let me introduce the crew. All the way from Scotland, Davy Gallagher. The king himself is here, Mr. Chris Laszlo. The owner of the warehouse in Newburgh, New York, Dan Brown. All the way from Ohio, Mr. Jamie Laszlo. And our resident Pennsylvanian, because we have one on every show here on the channel, Mr. Craig Kaminski. What's up, gentlemen?
Hello.
What is up?
Hey, hey.
Ready to trash some films tonight, guys?
Oh, yes.
Cool.
Get the frustration out.
There you go. So again, just let me preface this by saying I'm sure there's going to be films we're going to talk about here tonight that some of you, the viewers, love. And that's okay. We can't all love everything. We don't have to like the same films, and there are instances we're going to dislike some films. So if one of these that we're kind of trashing a little bit tonight, you really love, that's okay. We don't have to love them. Just like, you know, when we talk about stuff we love, some of you complain you don't like them. That's the way the world bounces. So let's just have some fun with this. And we're going to start off with Mr. Laszlo, starting off with his first two picks of the day.
All right. If you see behind me, I kind of have an 80s flavored Monsters Den.
I like it.
Because unknowingly, I picked all my movies from the 80s. So we're going to go back to the 80s on my Monsters Den. I got 38 fucking pictures here. So we're going to get through it all tonight, guys.
Slideshow heaven. All right.
Yes. As long as I don't get inked out of the chat room with my internet, we'll be all right. But my number one, well, this is in no order. This movie, it may not be the most well-known movie of all time, but it has a cult following. And if you tell this particular cult of people that you don't like the movie, this is the kind of cult that might get actually a little upset at you. But I don't think it's good, and that is Big Trouble in Little
Fuck you.
China.
Fuck you. Fuck you, Jimmy.
This fucking movie.
Go
You know
fuck
what?
yourself.
I remember when it came out in 1986, David, when you were just, what, 1 year old?
1 year old.
And I remember seeing the previews on TV, and at 16, I was like, or maybe 15, depends on what month it came out. I was like, this looks like shit. This does not look good. I said it, you had your earphones off. I said it looked like shit, Davey. So I did not see it until about 5 years ago. Because, you know, it started getting this cult status. I'm like, maybe I'm missing out, right? Maybe I need to watch this fucking movie. So there's going to be a lot of F-bombs tonight, too, from Laszlo. So I watched it. I thought, you know what? Kurt Russell might have some good zingers in there. I can see this being fun, and I just missed out. Well, he doesn't have any good zingers that I found at all. You know, in fact, there's one time where he goes, well, you know what's his character's name?
Jack.
Yeah, always says. I'm like, oh, it's going to be, what does he always say? This will be a good one. What the hell? That's it, huh? That's what the buildup was for. What the hell? Something my mom says when she's thinking about getting her nails done. Oh, what the hell? All right, whatever. But, you know, he's doing this bad impersonation of John Wayne. That's kind of annoying. You got unnatural dialogue. I don't know if it's supposed to be quirky or funny, but you got Gracie Law. She walks into the apartment and she introduces herself as, don't panic. It's only me, Gracie Law.
What the hell is Gracie Law doing
funny?
here?
Is this supposed to be funny? I'm not sure. Because okay, but that's the problem here. I'm uncertain of when the jokes are happening. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or if it's just bad writing. I can't tell. But when I do recognize a joke, it never lands. It barely gets off the ground, let alone lands. The martial arts scenes is just close-ups of guys flying through the air. I guess maybe that's supposed to be funny. Good guys, bad guys running around like Keystone Cops. Ha, 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 I guess. I don't know. What it feels like is a lot of ideas that came up, in a brainstorming meeting. They threw it together without any cohesive story or pacing or anything. And then they got these monsters that feel squeezed in, like they were like, hey, people like monsters, throw some fucking monsters in there. I don't know, just throw them in somewhere. So they got them in there. And most importantly, I don't care about any of these characters. So sadly, with Big Trouble in Little China, I have to say, fuck Lopan. I got to say, fuck these big, dumb, stupid hats. Fuck Thunder. Fuck Lightning. Fuck the girl with the green eyes. I mean, fuck her, girl with the green eyes. But in this case, fuck the girl with the green eyes. Fuck whatever this big head thing is. And
Bobblehead.
fuck Big Trouble in Little China. Davey, I'm gonna piss you off later, I think, again. That's all right.
Unfriended. There we go.
Unfriended. Blocked.
Maybe I think if you had seen this film in the 80s when it came,
No, it would still suck. I didn't even like the trailer.
you had a different. You had to be in the mindset of the 80s. It's totally
No.
I was
No.
gonna say I do remember seeing it in the 80s in the theater, local theater. I did like it then. I like it now. But the one thing I definitely remember, this thing bombed so bad. I saw it opening weekend on a Saturday afternoon. It was me, a friend from high school, and a drunk, like literally a homeless person, in an otherwise empty theater. So yeah, this did not.
Yeah, but it got that cult status this
It
time.
has a cult following now for sure.
I have another one of those type movies coming up.
It was supposed to be remade with The Rock.
Oh, fuck off.
Remaking The Rock.
Probably would have been
Yeah.
better,
I
Davey.
didn't mean to piss you off, Davey.
Can't be worse.
The Rock. God. He's also starring in a remake of Malibu High. He's going to be the principal. No,
Oh, Jesus. I mean, the whole point of it is that Jack
It's-
Burton isn't the hero. He's actually really bad at being the hero. So that's why his zingers don't land.
he's an
Right.
idiot. He gets
Oh,
nothing.
that's why his zingers don't land.
Yes, because he's
bad,
he's
he's bad at
supposed
saying
to-
Oh,
and that's what's funny.
The women.
his
Yeah,
sidekick is the guy
Wang
who
is
does
like
all
the real
Yes.
real hero in the movie.
He's the real hero. Yeah, it's maybe it's not.
Anyway,
None of it works for me.
we can't take too much umbrage each time we'll be here
All
all
right.
night.
It's
Jamie,
just
I
one
still
man's
love
opinion.
you. I still love
Either
you.
way,
Just one man's
guys, we
opinion.
got to fucking move this along.
Let's go.
We got 30 choices.
Yes,
This is going to be a
okay.
5-hour fucking episode.
All right. My second one. Another one that I've hated since day one. The fucking Goonies. Richard Donner's trying
Oh,
to tap in to Steven Spielberg magic, but it's just comes off as cheap imitation. I tell you what, if this film is supposed to make me feel like long for the days of being a kid, it doesn't do that. What it does is reminds me why I never fucking had kids. All these kids do is scream for 90 minutes. 80% of the time they're screaming. And it's amazing how these stupid kids can find a lost treasure, but they can walk around with dynamite the whole movie that plainly says dynamite on the side and not realize it's dynamite. And as they're touching it, I'm sure it doesn't feel like wax. The set pieces look cheap. The best thing about this movie is the Cyndi Lauper song, and it's not even her best song. So I got to say, fuck these kids. Fuck Sloth.
Yeah.
No.
Fuck the truffle fucking shuffle.
Okay, fuck that. That is annoying.
Fuck the 91% of people on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score, that like this fucking thing. So fuck the Goonies.
Alrighty.
Fucking wanker alert. Jesus.
Anchor alert.
I've never seen the Goonies, so I
Oh, I haven't seen it since it came out.
people
so
bust
I've
my
been-
balls all the time, Craig. Like, how have you not seen that? I'm like, it looked like a fucking kids movie.
It is a kids movie.
It is.
Hey,
Those are kids'
you can
movie.
make a good kids movie.
It's
But
a wonderful
this ain't
story
one.
about some young men looking for a one-eyed Willie.
And for the record, all my opinions, I'm gonna state like it's a fact. Just roll with it. I know it's an opinion, but
All right, Craig.
All right. Well, when we got this assignment, Pete says, "Well, we're gonna watch some shitty movies," and I thought, all right, I'm all up for watching shitty movies. How many we got to watch? 5. I watched 4, so I couldn't rewatch one of them. So as most of you guys, or if not the viewers out there, know, my first one is an easy pick because I'm recycling it. Some months back we did a review of the underworld movies, and I perhaps famously, infamously hated all 5 of the movies and ranked them as such. So my first pick is the first underworld movie, which I still fucking hate. I will begrudgingly say though that the third one is okay and watchable. And despite having some hot chicks in it, I don't like the movie. Worldwide, the franchise has made $539 million. So they are successful. So they have plenty of people out there that have enjoyed them. But, unsuccessful movies don't have 4 sequels. So, I mean, it's, just saying that. But I hated it. I didn't like the chemistry between the main characters, and I just didn't like all the overall story. So that's my first one. But my second pick, thinking about this, I rewatched this last weekend, and I haven't seen it in years. I rewatched it, and it's fucking terrible. My second choice is the original Amityville Horror from 1979. And this
I was
is
thinking of that.
this was a phenomenon actually of the time. I looked this up. $86.4 million in 1979. It was the second highest grossing movie of the whole year. So it was huge. I believe it was my dad even back then had the paperback of Amityville Horror, and I remember it because there were flies on the cover.
Yep.
And as a little kid, I remember seeing this, and it was like, oh, there's flies here. So even my parent, my dad, or perhaps both my mom and dad, who aren't really horror fans, they even were caught up in this at the time. And movie did big numbers. Margot Kidder doing this movie between the 2 Superman movies, so she was on a roll with that. But the movie is just terrible. I mean, it's boring. Besides it not being scary, it's just Rod Steiger is overacting so badly. I know what I saw. It's just so awful. James Brolin's hair gradually gets more and more unkempt as it goes on, and his eyes get darker. And then they keep showing on there like Tuesday, Wednesday, and it's like, wait a second, he's going bonkers after like two days. I mean, it's just so ridiculous and long. I think it's about 2 hours or a little over 2 hours, and it just doesn't seem to go anywhere. And Chris, I'm sure knows there's not much of a body count, or if at all, in the movie.
No boobs.
No. Margot Kidder looks hot in it in a few parts with like a plaid skirt on. I'll give some points for that. But overall, movie's just fucking terrible. And the name Amityville is just synonymous with horror anywhere. I mean, there's an Amityville actually near where I live, and my wife and I drove through it. She's not up on all these things, and she even saw the signs like, oh, Amityville, like the horror. I mean, and how many movies have the word Amityville and Amityville Ghost, Amityville Haunting? I counted over 30 movies on Tubi. So this movie, or even the name, has legs, but I absolutely think it's total shit.
I've always kind of liked it, but I'm of the opinion now that I thought it was much better back in the day. Like now you watch it and you're kind of like, yeah, this is not as great as I remembered it. And I wonder if the next time I watch him, it'd be like, yeah, Craig was right. This kind of sucked.
I bought it thinking that, and when I watched it, I was like, this ain't that good.
It was the hype that was given. It was a big emotional push, and it was on radio, television, ads, and that was the way they got information on the newspaper. So it was push. So it became a phenomenon, and that's how a lot of movies got huge.
Plus, too, it's got the New York connection. I think a lot of us who live in New York were always like,
yeah.
The house looks scary.
The house is cool looking with the windows.
Yes.
I'll give it that.
But the real house in real life is just mediocre, and the story is nothing more than a guy that killed his family.
Right. Which is the plot of Amityville 2, which is a much better and much sleazier movie.
Yeah. All right, cool. Mr. Laszlo.
Okay. My number 1, although it's not really in any kind of order, but this is definitely considered a classic. This is sort of like Amityville Horror, but 10 years earlier, this was a fucking runaway success, considered an all-time horror classic. And this is one when I ran my Hudson Horror Film Show, which Dan went to quite a few. I ran a very successful horror film festival. I ran probably 200 movies over 10 years, every one of them off 35 millimeter film. People would ask me constantly, oh, what about this movie? Oh, would you show this movie? And I was asked about this one, and the festival was not for me. It was for the fans. I had in my head, a dividing line that it had a movie had to be either had enough action or enough sleaze or trash in it. It had to be somewhat trashy. And this one is just not trashy enough for me, and it's fucking boring. It's 2 hours and 16 minutes, and there's like a fucking 5 minutes of payoff at the end, and even the payoff sucks, and it's Rosemary's Baby.
All that coming.
I think the whole fucking movie is just Mia Farrow going to the doctor's office. That's the whole fucking movie over and over and over again. In 2018, Exhumed Films showed this at the 24-hour horror-thon. I go, oh, fuck. As soon as it came on, I ran out to take a shit, get something to eat, take a shower, change my clothes. I come back, the movie's still fucking going. There is no reason this movie needs to be 2 hours and 16 minutes. Although I will admit, when I saw the last 30 minutes in fucking 2018, and all the old people are going, Hail Satan! God is dead! I was fucking laughing my ass off. But I'm still pissed, even though I know the ending. I'm like, show me the fucking baby. Show me the baby. They don't show me the baby.
No money.
So I don't like this movie. I tell you what's a much better movie, and it's way trashier, in my opinion, is Whatever Happened to Rosemary's Baby.
Sequel,
Which is the awful but amazing made-for-TV sequel starring Tina Louise
and
from like later 70s.
And Ruth Gordon is in it.
Yes, that's right. I think she was the only one to come back.
Ray Milland is in it, so he was in the first. Yeah, and then it's got George Maharis from Route 66.
George Maharis would do anything at that point.
Rosemary's Baby is not trash. To me, it's a snooze fest. But hey, people love it.
Winning performance by Ruth Gordon.
I love Rosemary's Baby.
I do too.
I love it. I can watch it a million times.
I do.
2 hours and 16 minutes?
I love
it.
Get the fuck out of here. If you take out all her doctor's appointments, the movie's like 5 minutes long.
John Cassavetes is brilliant in it. Mia Farrow's brilliant in it.
The Dakota is the star, the building. That's the star.
Okay, all right, sure.
Oh no, the film.
Chris is like, I'm not buying that either.
No, say no.
Listen, there's
my prediction that I text you is coming with that.
But if they would have showed the baby in 1968, it would have looked ridiculous. I mean, it would have looked like a doll.
I don't know. Maybe
it would have undercut everything.
Maybe not.
You need a little pair of hooves kicking, or
something, man. I don't know. It's too
no, you don't need that. You don't need that.
What you see in your mind is better than what they.
Yes, better than any.
It's described.
Every time I see a hot chick, that's what I say to myself, Jamie. Oh, what I could see in my mind. No, I don't say like, oh, I'd love to see her tits. Sorry.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I don't fucking say that at all. All right, number 2. I saw this movie once in the theater in 1990. And people lost their shit. It won fucking Academy Awards. People were losing their minds. Oh my God, it's the greatest horror movie of all time. Every horror movie sucks compared to this one. I didn't even think this was a horror movie. To me, it's like a crime drama. And to me, it reminds me of like my mom watches Law and Order.
You're going to say Silence of the Lambs?
Fucking Criminal Minds. And it's Silence of the Lambs. To me, it's like, okay, there's this creepy dude and he's locked up and we hear some fucked up things he did. And I don't know. It was just a snooze. I saw it once 33 years ago and never again. I was asked, would I ever show this at Hudson Horror? That's a big fat no. It's not fucking.
That's over 2 hours too,
no.
right?
Yeah. I don't consider it sleazy enough or trashy enough. It's kind of, to me, it was boring. Clarice is talking to what's his name, and they're talking about liver and eating whatever. And
I can smell your cunt is pretty sleazy.
Yeah, she gets cum thrown in her face, for goodness sake.
Yeah, but
that's right. That's not happy wanker in the cell.
That's enough for me. So that's a thumbs down. But hey, if people like it, that's fucking awesome.
I don't think it's a horror movie.
People
either.
love eating sardines.
It's more of a police procedural crime type movie.
That's what it is. To me, this is more like. And there was no Law and Order 33 years ago, but that's what this movie reminds me of.
Actually, it was the second where Ray Liotta's eating his own brains. That's like good stuff.
I saw that, and that made me laugh. Just the
Hannibal's
ending.
a cult. A camp version of this. This is a much more baroque version from Jonathan Demme, whereas Ridley Scott did a very camp version with
And there
Hannibal.
was one before this, right? Manhunter.
Well, there was
which I never
Manhunter,
saw.
Michael Mann's one, where Brian Cox played
Brian.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
And then they did Red Dragon, which was a remake of that,
Oh,
but with
okay,
Anthony
see.
Hopkins.
And Hannibal
yeah.
Rising, the prequel.
And
Which
but the best of all is the Hannibal
TV
series.
a TV show with Mads
Okay.
Mikkelsen playing Hannibal
That
Lecter.
is
It's
over the top.
phenomenal.
This is all right
They
over
tried
my
to
head.
make Clarice into a show.
Yeah, don't bother with Clarice, but
Yeah.
Hannibal is a
I
brilliant
didn't.
show.
I stopped 33 years ago. But hey, whoever likes it, fucking awesome. That's
What
great.
it's all about, right?
That's it. I'm not here to shit on anybody's
it's not-
parade.
it's not
I don't like it. It's not for me.
It's not making money on our dime, apparently. So somebody's
Yeah.
spending more on these things. So there you go.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Right,
make my
David.
picks look so bad now, does it?
See that?
No,
That was the
he
point of this,
did-
right? Picking movies that we don't like that people do like.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the fun of it.
That's right. All right, Dan, what do you got? First two.
You know, my thing is not like films I don't like. I mean, I guess that's the thing, but it's more along the lines of why? Why are these films made? And the film I'm going to say right now is like, I started as a Godzilla fan as a kid. Didn't, watching it actually in the Saturday afternoon matinees. And then eventually I followed it up to the point where they had Godzilla's son, who looks like the mentally challenged brother
Oh
of
yeah.
the Lizard on the Geico commercial. And then I left, and also, so in 2014, they're saying, I think they teamed up with was it Toho Studios that did Godzilla, the American production company. And they were going to get together and they were going to make a Godzilla film. And this is why it's a shame that a lot of movies I've seen as of late, people that cut trailers, they should have the best trailer at the Academy Awards, not the film, because the trailer sells. I remember the trailer for the Godzilla 2014 came out, and I was like, wow. This seems interesting.
We all lost our minds, right? We were like,
yeah,
wow.
this is it. It's coming back, whatever. And I sat there, and it just, first off, he's in an installation underground. They were raising him there. You got Bryan Cranston there, and then all of a sudden it breaks and it goes to the future, and it's just slow. It just trudges along. And it's just them meeting up and this, and I'm going like, God. By the time the movie came to the end, I was more concerned about, now that Walter White is gone, who's going to cook the meth? I don't give a shit. And I was so disappointed in it that I never saw the second film.
Oh, I love the second film. That's another camp classic for me.
And then I saw Skull Island.
Love it.
Which I think is a great standalone movie. That could have been Son of Kong in the 30s, the way it was done. And I said, okay, so I'll watch Godzilla meets King Kong. Now, I'll tell you something. I like that one because it's so cool as it was. King Kong going through the rabbit hole, the whole thing, the Ellis, what's going on? It's okay. But the first one, a great disappointment, but it made oodles of money at the box office. And I was just sitting there like, I didn't remember anything remotely good about it. Except Brian.
Well, every time a fight happened, doors shutting.
Yeah,
oh, look,
away.
they're fighting.
Yeah, boom. That's all. So that was a big disappointment. That's what I was. The next one on my list is another one that, okay, there were two films I was debating about what to do. And one film I saw years ago I didn't like. And I revisited it. It was called It Follows. I'm not saying it's a classic by any stretch, but it's got some creepy moments, like the people, and that's about it. But I took a different assessment of it. This film I saw, and I watched it, and then this is the only film I revisited to watch again for this show, and that's Paranormal Activity. And I'm watching this film, and I'm going, okay, here we are. It's a bad, like, Blair Witch ripoff, and all the action is happening through a home security camera. And nothing really happens. The door closes, there's a footprint. The girlfriend, who's actually quite attractive and statuesque, she's running around with a tank top and a little pair of gym shorts the whole time. And the thing is that, once again, nothing really happens, to the point at the end of the film, the shit happens. He gets thrown against the wall, and she comes up with a demented look on her face that can't hold a candle to Pearl with a demented face. And that's it. It's done. And I remember them showing things when the audience is saying, oh, the crowd reaction, jumping. There was nothing that made me jump, and then this thing spawned, 5, 6 more? They made one as little as 2 years ago. And I'm going like, oh my God. And so it's not the question of like, is it bad? I don't like it. I'm going like, why do people keep watching some of these things? It's insane. So that was my second one, Paranormal Activity, and probably all the subsequent.
Of the last 20 years, Paranormal Activity is probably the only movie to really scare me. It scared the shit out of me. Even in an empty house by myself, Grace was away on vacation, and I had the volume up really loud. And when he came towards the camera at the end, it gave me skin.
I like the first.
That was the only.
I like the first four.
But when she's staring at him, creeped me out.
Yeah,
give me the willies.
Willies. All right, Davey.
Okay, well, two of mine have actually been mentioned rather wonderfully. So, my preamble, take it for granted, folks, that anything from Blumhouse, CGI pish, that I can't stand, anything Conjuring, anything creepy doll, get it to fuck. It doesn't fucking know. That would be my bottom 100. All these shitty fucking The Nun, the Annabelle, all these fucking shitty CGI jump fest bullshit nonsense craps. None of them would are worth any of my time. So they would all be at the bottom. So I'm not including them because be here all day. So the two that I'm going to repeat. Certainly won't be Big Trouble in Little fucking Train. I'll say that. Jesus.
I already took that. You don't want to repeat
fucking hell.
We don't want to repeat.
Feel like my childhood's been raped. Amityville Horror, I think, is tedious in the extreme. And it's not because there's no scares in it, or it's not got gore or anything like that. 95% of my favourite horror movies show absolutely no blood whatsoever, but they're chilling. I just reviewed one today that's got no blood in it on my channel, Dark Places with Christopher Lee and John Collins. Brilliant, chilling movie. And that is just a scary little movie in one location pretty much. Whereas this Amityville Horror was just tedious. James Brolin must be the dullest actor ever to have a semi-decent career, because of who he was pumping at the time. Let's be honest, it was because he was Mr. Streisand for a good while, wasn't he?
Wait, he wasn't.
He wasn't married.
Barbara Streisand back then, was he?
No, she was married to John Peters. I
think there was. Well, no, John Peters doesn't. There's a few stories about John Peters not swinging that way. Yeah. Should we spell the word beard out? The problem I have with it is it just doesn't go anywhere. It leads you to that conclude. You're going to have some kind of. I guess we'd expect something like the ending of what do you call it? Toby Hooper, the House movie. Why am I forgetting it? 1984, Poltergeist. Something a bit like that. Something a bit more over the top. And they doubled down on it's based on true events. No, it fucking isn't. There's no such thing as ghosts and demons. Get the fuck out of here, you stupid bastards. Just make it up. Add on your own ending, for Christ's sake. Margot Kidder, Craig said she was on a roll. Well, she was on fucking coke as well. And that shows throughout this movie with the ridiculous performance that she gives. And the reason that this film has any staying power for me is Rod Steiger, because he's so bad in it. So bad that I have a wonderful time whenever he comes on screen, because he's in a different fucking universe, never mind a different movie. He's this fucking loud priest that's just fucking. What did he say?
The scene where they're driving, he and Don Stroud are driving, and the hood flies up. I mean, it's just so awful.
It's an atrociously dull film, and I think the second film is so much better in every way, and not just because it's lazy, just because it's an actual bloody story. It's got incest, it's got all sorts going on in that film, and it's an interesting story. It keeps you wondering, and it's got a payoff. The first one, no, get it to fuck, and then they remake it, and who cares? And then I'll also just pick the other one that was already mentioned, Paranormal Activity. I did not get hype for that film at all. Again, it was done with the trailer that showed you the audience and dark light, being shot while they're watching the film, and the audience are all shaking themselves watching it, and you won't believe the tears and chills that you will experience. And then I watch it, and it's a woman going for a pee, a guy rolling over in his bed, a door creaks open, a chair moves a little bit, and then an hour and 20 minutes later, somebody goes, that's it. And then they made another 5 fucking movies that did exactly the same. Exactly the fucking same. Of course, because they cost about £300 to make, and they make 100 million. So of course they'll keep making them. It's the only franchise ever where the Asylum ripoff costs more than the original. Paranormal Entity costs more than Paranormal Activity. It's fucking ridiculous. People, you're being taken for a ride with those fucking movies. Don't fucking give in to it. Don't give in.
I gave in.
Yeah, so don't, never do. Just tell me, shove it up their ass. Don't encourage this kind of behavior, this fucking hype. If they're showing you the audience reaction, it's because they don't want to show you the fucking film itself. So yeah,
that was a great gimmick.
No, well, it may have been a good gimmick because people that kept fucking making them.
Yeah, it's all the gimmick. It's the William Castle theory. Just go, to say when you go watch a trailer, it's all the high points.
Because there was no high points. There was no high points.
But that's the thing that's going to sell. Look, everybody's scared. Let's go to the movie.
People are like, do you know my favorite bit was the bit where the door opened? It was like, yeah, fucking my door's open all the time. Then they closed 2 seconds later. Big fucking wow, Jesus Christ. So if anybody can explain what the hell's scary about those films, if you want a better version of that kind of thing, watch what's the one with Toni Collette from A24 from Hereditary? Watch something like that. Mm-hmm. With a much better version of what can happen in a house and whatnot. So yeah, no. So I'll just go with those 2 just now because they've been repeated, so I might have a chance of originality later on. So yeah.
Dave, you sound so erudite with your scorn. I'm just laughing. You sound so with your scorn. I just love it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to repeat one too here. Paranormal Activity. Awful. I mean, you literally sit there for, what is it, an hour and 20 something minutes wondering, is anything ever going to happen in this movie? And I will admit that the payoff little minute long scene is cool. We couldn't have a whole movie like that. No. Terrible. I got done watching that film and I'm like, I can't believe I wasted an hour and something of my life. And I said, there is no way in hell I'm ever going to watch a sequel to this. And I haven't. And they keep making them. So yeah, as you said, Davey, people who keep falling for that, shame on you. Shame on you.
You guys are making me question my taste.
We won't have a ranking of this in the future.
No.
Yeah, the first thing that happened in the film, the door opening in the middle, like that's something like 30-something minutes into the movie. I think that's the first scary thing that happens, and it says they're sitting there and you see the video where the door goes. That's it, and that's like 30 minutes in.
Yeah, it's like, God.
So the door opened itself. It's the fucking wind, for fuck's sake. My door does that every night.
Yeah. My other choice here to start us off, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the late 90s. I was working at a company in Upper Saddle River, New Jersey. And I remember it was like a Monday morning and a bunch of the guys who worked for me came in. They're like, oh man, I went out to the theaters over the weekend to see that new horror film. I'm like, really? What new horror film? It was this great film, scared the shit out of me, called The Blair Witch Project. And I was like, really? So what was it all about? Oh, yeah, you felt like you were there with them, and it was great. The ending was great. And I'm like, all right, cool. So what did I do? Like an idiot, I went to the theaters the next weekend to go see The Blair Witch Project, and I walked out of there saying, I want my $7 back. And you know something? I blame that film for starting all this shaky cam bullshit that they've been 100%. Doing ever since. And you don't see a witch. You don't see much of anything. You just see a bunch of idiots walking around the woods.
Some twigs tied together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like an hour and a half of just absolute boredom. And I'm just waiting to be scared. And I'm like, what was so frightening about this film? And again, they save like anything that's going to happen till like the last 2 minutes of the film. And I just followed these people around the woods for an hour and a half for nothing. Where's the witch? Where's anything, right? Did they live? Did they die? I don't even care anymore. Don't care.
And they made
thought it was real, and that's what was so frightening to them, I think.
Yeah.
And it was the first film to really use the internet for marketing, and that really pushed it over the edge. Because if I remember rightly, that also had a trailer that showed you the audience. That was their kind of gimmick as well.
Can't show shit from the movie.
And it created so many parodies. They came out with one called the Blair Princess Project, which was about these 3 Jewish girls going to their friend Blair's wedding, and they get lost in the woods. Then they had one called, and then Linda Blair made one called the Blair Bitch Project.
There was the Barebacks Project, and the Bareback
it was.
But it spawned all these things, and yes, true. And as Peter said, Peter said that it spawned this whole shaky cam. And done
which continues to this day.
Yeah.
God, yes.
Do you know what annoys me most about that film, though? There's a germ of a good film. Paranormal Activity doesn't have it, but they've got the mythology of a witch who killed children, and they've got a little bit of folk horror going on with the twigs, and the woods themselves are evil. It's like you've got some moments here that you could build on if you had ideas instead of just a gimmick. Yeah. I don't care if you don't see the witch.
And just a simple premise of being lost in the woods that,
there is no light. The only light you have is,
All I remember is hating him. Her name was Heather in it. Because all she did for about half an hour was go, Josh!
And you watch her nose run.
Josh!
And then I was stupid enough to watch the sequel. Ugh.
Oh, that's
the second one was better, but it's still
better, but that's not saying.
Well, there's 2 sequels, isn't there? There's the Book of Shadows that came out the next year, and then there's Blair Witch that only came out about 5 years ago, which is an actual sequel. Yeah.
So, no good. Thumbs down for me.
All right.
That's a good one, Pete. I forgot about that one.
What do you got, Craig?
Oh, me?
Craig went, didn't he?
Oh, you're up, sir.
I think I'm up.
Jamie.
I'm sorry, Jamie. I'm sorry, Jamie.
Okay. No,
get my order confused here. Sorry.
I will say with Blair Witch, I remember laughing a lot. I remember the kids said some funny things before, but I haven't seen it since the theater. So another thing about my list is I have no actual horror movies on it. It's all sci-fi and fantasy. So, but it fits. This next one's from 1982. Man, did it have promise. I remember being a 12-year-old kid being so excited to go see this. And it also has a cult following. It has such a big cult following. Netflix started a series a couple years ago based on this movie, put a lot of money into it. And that is The Dark Crystal.
Wow.
So, I remember going to see it in the theater. And look, they made a series on it and they put a lot of money in it. So there's people out there who love this fucking movie. I remember seeing the Mystics doing the little ritual thing in the beginning going, oh, and I was sitting there going, oh, this is going to suck, man. I could tell right away. And I love Jim Henson and I love Frank Oz, but I don't think they should be directing a movie together. Shouldn't have. It has pacing issues. Every little scene lasts a little bit too long. And when you put a scene a little too long after another one, after another one, after another one, there's your pacing issues. I appreciate the work and all the scenery and the puppets, but the 2 main characters have no emotion. Their face is very stiff. I mean, Kermit the Frog has more personality and emotions. Oscar the Grouch. They're seeing when Jen and Kira meet each other and touch each other, and there's voiceovers and they're seeing each other's past, and it's very hard to watch. It's painful. The movie does have a script, but when the movie's over, you can't remember anything anyone said. There's nothing memorable here. It becomes them saying, look what we can do with these puppets. Look what we can make them do, instead of making them do interesting things and saying interesting things, whether they're human or a puppet. Just make them interesting characters instead of showing off on what you can do. So unfortunately for The Dark Crystal, if there's any fans out there, I gotta say fuck Jen. I gotta say fuck Kira. I gotta say fuck these things, the Sketskis or the jet skis, whatever the fuck they are. Definitely fuck this one. The whole movie he's going,
Josh.
oh Jesus Christ, fuck whatever this thing is.
That's a treble from Star Trek.
And fuck the Dark Crystal.
I saw that in the theater as a kid too, and I remember my
Yeah.
brother and I were like, "Oh, we like Jim Henson, we like the Muppets."
Yeah.
And then it's like you walk out, and then you walk out of the theater afterwards, and it was like, "What did I just watch?"
That's like
Yeah.
saying,
So disappointing.
I own it in a box.
I work
set,
with a
and
guy who loves
I've
it. Says
Never,
it's his
I've
favorite
never, I've never opened that box set except for to watch Labyrinth. That's the only film of the two I've ever actually
not
bothered
missing
to watch.
anything.
No, I've seen that. I've
Footage
seen that
on this.
before. It's terrible. Oh, I love Labyrinth. Love
Because
Labyrinth.
don't you know, anything from the 80s has to be a classic, no matter how bad it is. That's
Oh, you're sounding like Oscar the Grouch now. Never mind talking about him.
This next one is very heartbreaking for me. I think it was the most disappointed I ever was for it's a prequel, but we'll call it the second movie in the franchise. The first movie I saw as a kid 11 times in the theater, saw it 3 times in one weekend. It's still one of my favorite movies of all time. When the prequel came out, the second one in the series, I didn't even like the name of it when I was 14. I said, that sounds like a Johnny Quest cartoon episode on a Saturday morning. Johnny Quest in the Temple of Doom. That is so generic sounding. And you know what? I saw the first one 11 times. I didn't even see this one in the theater. My radar was up at 14 going, I think this is going to be a stinker. I kept meaning to see it, but I procrastinated and it was gone. And when it was gone, back then it was gone until it came out on VHS. Like a year later, I finally saw it. And when I watched it, I sat there at 15 going, I knew it. I knew it was a stinker. You got, you got Kiwi Kwan. Am I saying his name right? Just won an Oscar. Good for him. That is great. But this is the second time he's showing up on my list. I don't think it's going to wash out if he's watching the fact that he won an Oscar or anything. But this is the second time on my list. And he almost single-handedly ruins this movie. I say almost because he has help with Kate Capshaw. One of the most annoying characters in any movie ever. She's screaming. He's screaming. There's a scene where she's screaming because of bats and lizards. What's his name? Short Round is screaming over a card game at the same time. Though. It's so annoying. And we don't even need Kate Capshaw in this movie. You could take her right out and the movie goes just fine without her.
When you're Steven Spielberg and you got to give your wife some work.
She had no chemistry with Harrison Ford, but evidently she has some chemistry with Steven Spielberg on the side when the camera was on.
I mean, ask Rob Zombie, about putting his fucking
right.
Oh yeah.
And I just want to talk about, people. There was a saying for a while. People don't say it anymore. Nuking the fridge from the Crystal Skull because of the nuking the fridge scene. Yeah. People should be saying riding the raft. There's a scene in here where they are in a plane. They jump out of the plane in a raft that is not blown up. As they fall, 3 people are staying in the raft. As it falls, it blows up as they fall hundreds of feet. They hit the snow. No one gets injured. Just comes down like a little parachute, hits the snow, goes down. You're like, that's ridiculous. But wait, it goes off a cliff, falls a couple hundred feet to a river, and they just keep going. Everything's all right. I will suspend my belief on these movies. I do it on Raiders. I do it on The Last Crusade because those movies sell it well. This is going from goofy shit like that makes no sense to darkness where it will give you whiplash. It does a dark scene and a goofy scene at the same exact time when Indiana Jones is possessed. I'm like, this is goofy and dark. And then it snaps out of it because he gets a little burn on his stomach. Oh, what was I thinking? So,
it's so good. It gives
the heartbreaking for me.
And Indy's back.
Because I watch it often thinking it's not going to be that bad, Laszlo. It's fucking Indiana Jones. And I watch it again and I go, sometimes I do watch it and I go, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. But a lot of times I watch it and I say, fuck Willie. Fuck Short Round.
No.
Fuck this fucking raft. Fuck that raft. You can't see it very well, but fuck the mine cart jumping one track into the air and landing on the other track perfectly, and it just keeps rolling.
Like an adventure film or something.
Saying this, but Puck, Indiana Jones, and the Temple of
I always like that the stones look like baked potatoes. You know that.
Yes, the stones look like baked potatoes.
You will go to Pancart Palace.
Oh, you're gonna hate my last one, Davey. Don't you worry.
Oh my
I think
Hey, to paraphrase the film, you will become a true believer, Dr. Jones.
I think the Crystal Skull makes this look like golf.
Oh, for sure. And that new
This is
one
the
looks
worst one.
fucking
The
worse.
new one looks awful.
This is
Oh,
worse to me.
listen,
Never mind.
If you can't cut a trailer that looks good for a
Okay.
fucking Indiana Jones
Trouble.
movie, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
New one was filmed in Glasgow. It's going to be amazing.
Gia LaBeef straddling the two Jeeps. That's right. This is
Yeah.
done. Yeah, this is done.
All right, Craig.
All right, Chris opened the door for my next choice for this one, and movie that came out 10 years after the sequel, or after the initial movie. I was really looking forward to it. I went to see this on its opening weekend and was gravely disappointed, and that was Hannibal from 2001. At the time, I was dating my wife, my now wife at the time. She couldn't go with me, and so I took in a matinee for it. And I later told her, I said, yeah, I went to go see Hannibal. And, oh, I wanted to see that. I said, no, you don't. I mean, I rewatched this last week just to make sure that my ire was true. It's just fucking terrible. I think this one is boring, and there's just not a lot that happens. The long con of I'm going to have wild boars in Italy sent over to America to eat Hannibal Lecter alive. I mean, it's worse than any James Bond sort of thing where it's like you could just shoot him. You know, he was right there, all tied up. He says, "Well, I'm going to cut your feet off and feed you to the wild boars at 8 o'clock." And it's like, why don't you just do it now if you really want to get revenge on him? You know, and then he ends up getting dumped in there. It is just so idiotic. The scene with Ray Liotta is kind of funny and everything, but then he cuts his hand off, and to my understanding, it's different from the book, because the book
is different. They actually hook up in the book.
They become a couple in the book, and it sounds idiotic. I just really was disappointed with this and wanting to like it, but it was one of those where when you saw ahead of time that Jonathan Demme opted out, Ted Talley, the writer, opted out, Jodie Foster opted out, all the people that, 3 of your Oscar winners said, you know what, I don't want anything to do with this. They got David Mamet to co-write the movie, and it's stupid. I just really could not get into it, and it was really just disappointing, because I mean, I did enjoy Silence of the Lambs and was looking forward to this movie, and just hated it. It did $352 million in 2001. Huge box office winner at the time, but left me really cold and just didn't care for it.
I love it to bits. That whole opening half hour with Giancarlo Giannini, where he's going to try and catch Hannibal and send him back to this. I love that stuff in Florence.
The only thing I liked was that he had a hot wife.
It's such a wonderful contrast to the grimness of the first film.
Giannini's wife was smoking hot when you see her at the opera.
And Gary Oldman's brilliant as he's brilliant as the villain in it. It's fantastic. But it's a comedy. Like when he's talking about how Hannibal persuaded him to cut his own face off, and you get a flashback, and he goes, "Seemed like a good idea at the time.
I had my come hither shirt on." No.
So it's a comedy. It's a piss take. I love that film.
My second choice is a movie that didn't do too well commercially, but it has a 98% Rotten Tomatoes score and it's from 2014. And what got it for me was that about a couple of weeks ago, I watched the Scream reboot, the one that came out last year, not the one that's out now. And in the very beginning of it, Jenna Ortega, who I didn't know at first was in it from the X, is saying to the killer on the phone, it's like, I like smart horror movies, like my choice, The Babadook. I fucking hate that movie. I thought it was awful, and I just rewatched it last the kid and the
like the
mom
Babadook.
are the most
They're so
annoying
fucking
people
annoying.
ever committed to celluloid. How
he is
many
annoying.
times
Yeah,
in the movie, mommy, he's worse than the dubbed voice of the kid in City of the Living Dead. I mean, it like 10 times worse. I mean, and it's like, yeah, I get it, that it was like a, not compartmentalizing your grief and everything, over husband. I get it. But it was like, it was just so shitty. I'm watching this and it's like, oh, this is smart horror. No, it's fucking dumb, and I hated it. And as soon as I had tried to, I'd seen this movie before, again, from hearing all the positive word of mouth. I just rewatched it again last week, and I was like, oh my God, Pete wants me to rewatch these shitty movies. This is not an easy, and it was right when Jamie had said, wow, I'm having a tough time watching some of these movies. And I was like, yes, I feel your pain. Because
I was in the middle of the Goonies when I texted that.
I hate it. So yeah, that was my choice. Just could not stand it. Hated it. Really hated it.
I love that. I
like the Babadook also.
Well. Yeah,
I like to say the word Babadook.
Yeah,
Babadook. I love the figure. I love the book. I love everything about that film. But yeah, it was overhyped.
The kid is very.
It was overhyped.
Was annoying too.
It was the start of that thing that A24 have carried on of snobby horror, and I'm a bit guilty of it myself, where there is that kind of like Hereditary and those kind of films, or Midsummer, they are kind of, we're a bit too good to be just horror, those kind of films. That was definitely the start of that kind of movement.
Yep. All right, Chris.
Okay, this next one is a sequel to a horror classic, and it's very popular in its own right. And I looked for quite a while for the original on VHS in 1984. When I saw it, I didn't really like it. I didn't think there's not enough gore, and I just didn't get it. When I was 13, what the fuck did I know? I couldn't even make a goddamn grilled cheese at 13 years old. But then in 1986, I saw the sequel, and I really liked it because it was gory and funny, and Tom Savini did the makeup. But over time, I have revisited both movies a number of times. And yes, I did play both movies at my Hudson Horror Film Festival. But I have completely swapped my views on both of these films. And I think the original now is, for a number of years, I've thought it's one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And I fucking hate the sequel, which is Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. I think it is fucking trash. I mean, I understand why they went with the black comedy thing, because the first one is just so horrific that there's no way you could top it, but it's just fucking annoying with the, Chop Top, scraping his head and go eat a dog dick, and all the stupid lines, and Dennis Hopper and dueling chainsaws. And to me, I'm like, you didn't even bring back Gunnar Hansen. All Gunnar Hansen wanted was scale, but $1 extra on top of that. And the producers were dicks. They wouldn't fucking give it to him. Fuck this movie. The only thing I like about the movie is the set design. The underground cave shit looks amazing, but I think this fucking movie is annoying. I did run it at Hudson Horror, and people loved it, just like I ran the original, and people loved the original. But man, I do not like that second one. Listen, the whole fucking franchise is shit, other than the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To me, it's one of the few franchises there is fucking no redeeming values other than the original, which is truly a masterpiece. And fuck all the others. And Jamie's not going to like this one, but hey, that's the way these things go.
Here it comes.
This is another one that I always loved Evil Dead 1, but I really liked Evil Dead 2 when I saw it originally. But man, over time, it is a fucking bore. I mean, it's like 75 minutes, and like for fucking 40 minutes, it's Bruce Campbell playing with himself in the fucking cabin. Like,
that's a different movie.
There's fucking nothing going on in this movie other than like Bruce Campbell like laughing with the moose, and playing around with his hand, and the fucking blood's not even red. It's black or green or whatever the fuck. Like, really? You really thought you were going to get a fucking R rating with this? I mean, the only interesting part is like the last 20 minutes when the other people show up. To me, the whole, whatever it is, 40 or 50 minutes is a complete fucking snooze fest. But hey, people fucking love this movie. They crack lines about it. I watched that Deadites documentary. Nobody gave a shit about the first movie. Everybody was jerking off about Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. And while I'm not thrilled with Army of Darkness, at least Army of Darkness is somewhat original. And to give Sam Raimi his credit, because I read this recently, which I'd never heard, when Dino De Laurentiis approached him about doing a sequel, his idea for the second one was Army of Darkness. And Dino De Laurentiis was like, no, that movie's going to cost too much money. You make something just like the first one, and if that does well, we make a third one. And that's what they did. But yeah, I think Evil Dead 2 is just a really, really, it's a chore to sit through for me. You know, but listen, I'm not the biggest fan of the Three Stooges. And that's what this whole fucking movie is until you get to the very end.
I don't like the Three Stooges, but something about it when it works in Evil Dead 2. First movie I ever bought in 1988 on VHS was Evil Dead.
But it was my first DVD. So yeah. Well, groovy, man.
Hey, I ran Evil Dead 2. People loved it. People lost their shit. And I skipped the whole fucking thing.
I will agree, though, over time, as I've watched all three of them so many times, I think the first one just stands out to me as just the
head and shoulders.
Yeah.
Remember the scene in Godfather 2 where Michael reveals to Sonny that he now knows that he was the traitor, and he goes, "You broke my heart, Sonny. You broke me." That's how I feel. Yeah.
Another movie Laszlo doesn't like.
That's how I feel right now. It is like Michael Corleone, that I've been betrayed.
I'm sorry, Davey.
No, not by you, by everybody. You've all had a wanker signal, I think, by now. So I feel like I need to kill myself tonight.
I mean, it's a tough fucking sit through, man.
I was stepped over.
I was get a comfier chair.
I got the 4K that had both of them from Best Buy.
I have that too.
And man, you know, I made it like 20 minutes through the first 20 minutes of Evil Dead 2. I'm like, I gotta grab the fast forward button. I'm like, I know it's the shortest one in the series, but I can't fucking take it. You know, the laughing with the lamp and, you know, grabbing himself in the mirror. I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. It's, you know. But hey, that's me. Like I said, lots of people love this fucking movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of why we're doing this episode, right?
Yeah, no, it's all in fun.
I'm not crazy about it either. So,
all right, Dan,
really?
back to you.
Well, this one thing, I'm only saying this next film only because I want people in your audience to understand where it came from. And it's nothing to do with horror. This is the series we call The Hunger Games. Now, it's not a horror film by no stretch.
Fantasy.
But once again, it's one of these things. They milked it. They milked the death of Philip Seymour Hoffman through 2 films at the end, which they do with these series. Now, I understand these films are geared for a certain audience, you know, usually teenagers, or that's their demographic. And I get it. But what disappointed me a great deal about this series, I only saw the first film, I didn't revisit it, was the fact that there's a far superior film out there called Battle Royale.
Yeah,
you know, and a lot of people are we here know of it, but a lot of people out there are unaware of that, and that's
called what?
Battle Royale.
Oh,
it's a Japanese film, and Japanese usually do some serious horror, but this is not really horror. It's the Hunger Games. It's survival. You know, the most dangerous game, whatever it may be. And I just want to say that film not because just shit on it, because it serves a purpose in some universe somewhere, but it's to help tell people to look. You want to see a better film? You watch Battle Royale. Okay, and you can even watch Battle Royale 2, for God's sakes, the sequel.
That's kind of shitter, but this first one is amazing.
Yeah. The other next film I'm going to have is something that's come out in the last few years, and it was a big hype last year. I missed the show that we did on it, and that is Terrifier 2, All Hallows Eve. I mean,
bless you, my son.
Huh? Yeah. God, I missed that shot. I sat there and I'm watching the first movie. It's like, It's badly lit. The thing is stupid. The only thing remotely redeeming about this film is like it's a little bit over the top, but the clown has this interesting Marcel mime thing. You know, when he makes faces and gestures, it's a little annoying after a while. But the film is shit. It just keeps going. And then they make a second one, which is what 2 hours and.
It's 5 hours long, isn't it?
It's 28 hours long.
I think it's Coppola's cut is like 6 hours of the film. You know, and it's like. And it's like, and you're sitting there going on, and people just, Terrifier. And the guy has another one in the fucking works.
Oh, sure.
You know,
Dan, did you watch
this Halloween? How many kids are going to go as that fucking clown for Halloween?
Oh God,
with a little girl.
Franchise will be going when we're dead.
But it's not even well done. It's not even well crafted. That's like sitting there. We could sit there and run around and do a scene of a horror movie every day in the woods up here in the Hudson Valley and slap it together, put somebody in a clown suit, and guess what? You got yourself, it's insane. And I can understand why people like it. I watched it and I watched these things. And I'm going, my time of the game, every minute is precious. I can't buy this time fucking back. It's like, wow. And then, and that's my second one is Terrifier 2.
And like 97% of people, I think, are on. We might be the 3%.
Yeah, on the episode, I don't know if you watched it, Dan. We went for that film like a lion to a gazelle. We fucking ripped that thing to shreds. And the comment section was full of, what are you guys talking about? This is a masterpiece. I was like, what? And I asked about 3 episodes in a row, can somebody please tell me what's so good about this? Nobody can answer that question. What is good about this film? They just like it.
What's redeeming about it? I don't, it's like, even Halloween has a story. I mean, it's about a maniac cutting people up. It's a maniac cutting people in Black Christmas. Okay.
It's the only episode of the Monsters Den I've ever challenged the director to a fight on, put it that way.
Fight on screen.
The coward hasn't taken me on yet. Come on, Damien Leone, you fucking wanky. Well, I'm over here, so Damien can come over here and we'll finally sort this out.
Excuse me, guys, I'm gonna just pull out a sword for this episode.
He doesn't
for
get
no
fucking
reason whatsoever.
He's appearing with the Connecticut Horror Convention. Soon, right?
Oh, really? He shows his face in public.
So we just go there and like punch him in the nose and say, Davy Gallagher says,
just kick him in the balls and walk away.
Kick him in the balls and walk away.
Why waste a punch? You need a real killer blow, Like,
this one's for Davy.
It'd be worth the jail time. You don't have the death sentence in your state, do you?
Come and collect from Scotland.
That brought back memories. All right.
That's fucking wanker. What a fucking shit film. I hate that guy so much. Fuck, I feel like I'm having Vietnam flashbacks.
See that? PSTD. All right, Davey, your next 2 picks.
Oh, I'll tell you, they're not as bad as fucking Terrifier, I'll tell you that much. Oh God, that's horrible. That's giving me the dry heave now. That's just disgusting. I hate that film. Right, it was alluded to by Craig there, but I'm going to go with Scream as a franchise. I can't stick Scream, and I never could. To me, it is the worst kind of post-Tarantino. Everybody has to talk like a smart ass in movies. Everybody's literate about pop culture. There used to be the one character who would be like that in a slasher, and then he would get bumped off. Everybody's wisecracking, everybody's smart aleck, and everybody's written exactly the same way. And except for Sidney Prescott, your Neve Campbell character, who's your one innocent, your Nancy from Elm Street, or your Jamie Lee Curtis. She's the one who isn't, but everybody else is written like that. And then the sequels just carry that on and on, where everybody is wisecracking, talking about the tropes of horror movies, and they think it's so clever. Wes Craven just keeps doing the same shtick over and over. It is absolutely horrendous. In number 3, Jay and Silent Bob show up from the Clerks universe, and you think, what the fuck is going on? Jesus Christ, in that bike. I just cannot stand Scream and what it did to American horror films, because it led to I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legends and just all these Jeepers Creepers, all these atrocious fucking movies that came out in its wake. where everybody looked the same, acted the same, talked the same. Just everything about them was just horrendous to me. And it thought it was so smart. That's where it's postmodern. No, it's not. No, it's not. Just because it knows it's a horror movie doesn't make it postmodern. Wes Craven has already done a better version of that with New Nightmare 3 years earlier. The Freddy Krueger in the real world. That was a much better film. So Scream would be my pick. I can't stick Scream at all. My next one will be a Stephen King pick. I was going to go with Cujo. Can you see my Cujo box here? That's a Cujo.
Sure.
Okay, that might be Beethoven. I might have lied about that, but no. Oh, look at his big face. I don't know what I've got.
What came in there?
Well, it's got Cujo's third when he's got a wee fishing hat on. Look, this was for another video that never happened. I've got far too much time in my hands. My actual pick is a Stephen King, and it is the TV version and the recent films of It. Can't stick them. Can't stand them. The TV version was, 6 hours because it was a miniseries? Nothing happens. Tim Curry gets paid to just be Tim Curry for a little bit. Nothing happens. And then a giant spider shows up with worse effects than Ray Harryhausen was getting 30 years earlier. And then somehow this develops a cult following, and we get the 2 recent film versions where Bill Skarsgård isn't even as good as Tim Curry. And once again, you have a totally disappointing ending, and somehow these become blockbusters. They made hundreds and hundreds of millions. And I don't care about the child plot, and I don't care about the second one where they become adults. In the book, and I've read the book, it's a huge book. It's bigger than the Bible, for God's massive. Yeah. There's a scene in that which they could never put in a film, but the teens in the first film, they have an orgy. They all gangbang the young girl in the group. I wonder why they've never put that on the big screen. So it's different from, you can tell Stephen King wrote that during the years, can't you? But there's nothing in it. So clowns are creepy, and it's actually a kind of demon that's just taken the. You don't need 6 hours to tell that story. You don't even need 100 minutes. You can do that in 90. There's no story. There's no interest. The character who kills himself just because, as an adult, he finds out the clown's back again, just kills himself at the thought of that. Doesn't even bother to try and fight back. He just kills himself straight away. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Nothing about the It films attract me whatsoever. Can't stand them, be it the TV version or the recent ones, which even worse, add jump scares onto everything, which apparently just makes a film good when it comes to modern mainstream horror. But yeah, It. So yeah, this round has been Scream and It, and I can't stick any of them.
I wish I would have picked it. I could have said, fuck it.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it, which is the biggest island in Thailand. Fuck it.
There you go. All right. In the early 2000s, I saw a fairly interesting and fun horror film by a young up-and-coming horror director named Eli Roth. The film was called Cabin Fever. It wasn't too bad. So when they announced a couple years later that he was doing another film, I was pretty excited. I'm like, I like this guy. I'm going to go to the theater and see Hostel.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible. I think one of the probably 2 films, it's a franchise because they made a couple of them, that kind of jump-started this whole torture porn thing. And if you think it's fun watching a couple of moronic U.S. college kids hopping across Europe and going to Slovakia and, coming upon all these, people doing torture with women and whatnot, and all these crazy escapades that are completely unbelievable, and scenes that there's really no terror or suspense at all in this film. It's just nonsense.
Yeah.
Torture porn that just really there's no guts to this film whatsoever. You don't care.
Ironically, yeah.
You just want them all to die and
yeah,
film to be over. And I was so massively disappointed in this movie, but yet everybody thought Hostel was so great. They made a sequel to it not long after, although I'm pretty sure Eli Roth kind of walked away from the franchise at some point. I don't know if he
did.
Oh yeah,
He did 2, but not 3.
yeah. He started hanging about with Tarantino at that point. And
Yeah.
shifted on.
And
Yeah.
he decided to do something real original like Green Inferno.
Which was
Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
a Cannibal.
Like, wow,
yeah.
that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
Your homage to Cannibal Holocaust, you know.
I tell you what, though, Cabin Fever was a decent start. I mean, did nothing original,
Did
but
they remake that too,
they
though?
did a remake of Cabin Fever 10 years after it came out, as if that was some forgotten
The
classic.
sequel or remake, really?
A remake
I thought it
and
was a remake.
yeah, a remake. Sorry, a reboot, because they don't like the word remake. They like reboot or reimagining these days, don't they?
I'm sorry, when you're rebooting or reimagining or remaking films from the 2000s, I don't care whether it's 2001 or 2010.
Well, 20 years, that's the audience that they're going after. There's a new audience now. It's generational.
Yeah.
Just go watch the original movie. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, the original movie, remember the guy puts his finger down to, have a play around, and then he pulls out the whole the whole kit and caboodle. That's a lovely gory scene. But that builds up over about an hour and a half. You're right. The problem with Hostel is it's like starting your porno with a money shot. You go straight into just bludgeons and people getting their guts ripped out. So there's no build whatsoever. And the kind of people that watch those films don't have the attention span to care about that kind of thing. They just want to, they may as well watch a compilation of kills of horrors. I'm sure there's Blu-rays of that kind of thing. Yeah. Just watch a YouTube video, best kills.
An observation about Peter talking about how like these stupid tourists that are in there. You know, it's funny. Over the years that they've done now going torture porn, all these films, the teenagers and whatever young people are being, they seem to be getting stupider and stupider.
Oh, yeah.
That it makes the people makes the girls other than Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween look like Mensa students. I mean, seriously, dumber and dumber and,
And the films are more racist too. Like Taken even does this thing where Liam Neeson tells his daughter, "You better not go to Europe," because he can't pronounce Europe in his American accent that he can't do. "You better not go to Europe because the minute you go to Europe, you will be taken." And then the second she leaves the airport in France, she's taken. It's not even 5 minutes. It's the second she walks out of the airport, she's kidnapped instantly. Just like in Hostel, the first place they go to, they're instantly all killed.
That's how it works.
It's no wonder most Americans don't have a passport and leave their own country, because they probably think the rest of the world's like, for goodness sake.
I don't leave my own house.
I've been to Slovakia. It's wonderful. I mean, very few of us were killed in that trip.
You couldn't tell by watching Hostel, right? Because people are like, I'm never going there.
I tell you what, very cheap booze, and very cheap women as well. So it's a wonderful country.
Sounds good.
I got to get that passport.
All right, my other pick, actually, my next two picks are going to be somewhat similar. I think at this point in time, I am getting really tired of having so many fucking zombie films. To the point where now what they're trying to do is they're trying to move zombies into all sorts of other genres, when I just like a good, scary, gory zombie horror film. I don't want a zombie shoot 'em up action film. World War Z.
Oh, that's
sorry.
Terrible.
Like watching
filmed in Glasgow though.
Well, it's like watching a video game, and it's just like it's all about the guns and Brad Pitt. And man, I was so bored with this particular film, but yet it made $1 gazillion, and people were like, it's so much action and it's great. Oh yeah, we got zombies in there too. And to me, it just seems like a cop out. Let's just throw zombies in everything and it'll make more money. And that's ever since, and I kind of have to blame it on The Walking Dead, because I think ever since that show came out, that's what they're doing, and it's going to be repeated on my number one as well. But yeah, I remember the first time I watched World War Z, I was just kind of like, what is all the hype about this? This is like, and the CGI looks terrible. And
I enjoyed it up to the point where they jump off the building in Newark. I kind of like story pacing up to that point. Then after that, when they got rescued and the whole thing, it just went, what? Now we're in Glasgow. Now we're in Israel, and I survived a plane crash. Everybody else is mangled, and he's just sitting there in a chair.
Oh, of course.
And the girl's alive too. What are the odds of that?
And
You
the book is actually pretty interesting. If
I
you
was
read
just
the
going to
book.
say.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
and
I
the
read the
movie is
book.
nothing like
yeah.
the book.
Book is
It's
100% different.
Mel
Is it
Brooks'
really?
kid wrote it, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
the
Yeah,
book actually
Max
would
Brooks.
make a great scenario for a television show.
Or like a
Because the book is that the zombie war is over,
That's
and the
right.
book is about a reporter traveling the world and talking to people about the local stories of the battles that happened in their area. So
Yeah,
it would have been a great TV show.
if you ever get a chance, I don't know if you can find it online, but they know they made it. They made an audio book of that of the book that was dramatized by all kinds of actors. You know, and Mark Hamill plays one of the characters, and they're telling reflections and stories. And there's two versions. One's an unabridged version, has about it's like 8 hours long. But you're the reporter, and the people are being interviewed. And like I said, they're all name actors doing the roles. It's really well done. It's done like a mockumentary, as you call it. But
yeah.
Really
mockumentary.
really good book, but the movie
The book's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like I Am Legend. Like that book should never be an action movie.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. All right, let's blow through our number ones. Craig, back to you. I mean, sorry, almost did it again. Jamie.
The hell, man.
Getting forgotten tonight.
I know. This next one, I would not be surprised if there's a few people watching that don't know this movie, but you tell this cult that you hate this movie and they might fight you. Well, they're pretty nerdy, so there's nothing really to be scared of, but they may want to fight you. And I don't know if Davy's a big fan. I'm just guessing, knowing Davy, that he might really like this. And this is the movie from 1984. It's fucking The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the fucking 8th dimension. Fucking, I told you he'd like it.
Total fucking wanker, mate. Total
I mean, this is
wanker.
referenced in Star Trek: The Next Generation, Back to the Future, Ready Player One. Wes Anderson referenced it in his movie.
Yes, and Steve Zissou.
It's called cinematic art. It's a fucking mess of a movie. Look, this movie fucking sucks. And here's the thing. I'm not even going to talk about the story, if that's what you want to call it, or the acting, or the whole stupid vibe of this movie. I will tell you, Davey, that it makes up its own rules. And if you're not, I just hate the fucking rules that it makes up. I'm not along for the ride at all. You know, here's the thing. This is what I was thinking when I was rewatching this. Holy crap, yesterday. It was tough. It was the last half hour. I just kind of tuned out. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just not a big enough nerd, and maybe this goes to the furthest reaches of nerdism, and I'm restricted in my nerdiness, and I just can't get there. Maybe it's not you, Davey. It's me. This is for people who like to dress up in cosplay every weekend in their house and just sit on their couch and have fun. That level of nerdiness. Or it could be for people that have seen every Doctor Who episode that has been made since 1963. For me, Doctor Who it's that cheap show that used to be on PBS in the late 70s, filmed on video, that looked like shit. That's what Doctor Who still is to me. But I think this movie is for that level of nerdism. When I was in high school, I never got, thank God, wedgies. If my glasses broke, I got new ones. I didn't tape them. So, you know, in America, you got far left. You got far right. All right. Now, I'm not telling people to be woke, but I ain't reading the Bible every night. I'm somewhere here. That's where my nerdyism is. You know, you got far jock and you got far nerd. Yeah, I'm somewhere over here. You know, I like to play golf every once in a while. That's as far jock as I get. So this movie, you got to be far nerd, I think, to like this movie. And then maybe if you're that far nerd, you even know what the fucking watermelon's for. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe
well, the watermelon's a genius
I don't know.
But look, Jamie, that's the problem. You're looking at it through American culture, whereas over in the real world, Europe, for example, you can be a super geek, but also fucking prom queen.
Did anybody else catch that? That's funny. The real world being Europe. All right. I caught that.
They
Yeah,
did one of the seasons of the real world in Europe.
I don't know what the real world is
That's four
anymore.
numbers for you,
I have
pal.
no idea.
1776.
Here's another one,
Look,
1814.
if you guys never seen this, they're wearing bubble wrap on their face so they can
No.
see a secret message from a Jamaican alien. I mean, and it's cinematic art. God damn. All right. So
wasn't Buckaroo Banzai a comic book initially?
in this movie, it's everything.
I don't
plays
remember.
the card. He
I
does
remember
the
seeing
card
the
goals.
ads
He's-
in the
he's the
comic
Renaissance
books.
man.
That I remember.
He-
but
He's the world's best nuclear physicist. He is the fastest man on earth when it comes to racing
He
vehicles.
goes
That's
through a
his-
mountain. He's
that-
so fast.
That,
Later
well, that's
that night,
his- that's
he's
his
in a
great-
band,
like,
too.
saxophone.
That's
He's also
his
a
greatest
rock
show
star.
is.
Yeah, he's like
He's
Keith
in-
Richards.
and he's a neurosurgeon.
He's got comic
so,
books.
yeah.
He's got
Well,
video
aren't we
games.
all? Come on.
And Jeff Goldblum plays a cowboy called New Jersey. So I mean, this is a masterpiece. Clearly,
Oh, okay. And then you got John Lithgow. as
John
this
Lithgow,
crazy
is
guy.
phenomenal. Yeah,
Okay. You know what? Fuck Lizardo.
Sorry.
Okay.
laugh while you can, monkey boy.
Fuck Penny Pretty. Fuck. I like Jeff Goldblum, but fuck whatever the fuck this is. I don't know.
Oh,
And
Like-
fuck
like
the
what?
watermelon. Why is there a watermelon there? I'll tell you later. They never tell you. They
That's
never-
the
they never
joke.
tell you.
that's the joke.
It's the MacGuffin.
Fuck the fans dressing up in cosplay for this fucking movie. Fuck the famous end credits.
Oh, the end credits are amazing.
And on top of it, fuck Doctor Who, just for the fuck of it.
Oh,
Fuck Doctor Who.
yeah. Fucking hell.
That dude, that chick,
Fucking
whoever it
hell.
happens to be in some fucking, I don't know, what's he do? Travel in a
phone
phone booth? I don't
Right.
know. Fuck it
That's
all.
Tom, that's
Fuck
Tom
the
Baker,
adventures
right?
of
That's Tom
Buckaroo
fucking
Banzai
Baker, the fourth
across the
Doctor.
eighth
Don't give me your
dimension.
jingoistic
It's a
nonsense. That's
fucking
Tom
title of a
fucking
movie
Baker.
that sounds like four
Take
eighth graders
his
at
fucking
recess
name
came up
out
with
of
it.
your mouth.
Teacher, we came up
I'm
with a
gonna
movie idea
fucking
called
Will Smith
Buckaroo
you.
Banzai.
Oh,
Oh man.
that's funny shit.
fucking hell.
Well,
right.
I am feeling like Will Smith at the Oscars right now, you know that?
Go
You have
do
a
some
bald wife?
stand-up to get your
Right.
Yes,
revenge.
she's called Craig Kaminski.
Careful.
Speaking of Craig, Kaminski. All right, Craig.
All right, my last one. Pete sort of opened the door for this. Also, in that I
A
never
spooky
watched.
door.
I never watched this movie before, but I had seen the first two in the franchise and didn't like them. So last week I decided to bite the bullet and to watch Saw 3. Saw 3 is the one that made the most money out of the whole franchise, which they have a 10th one, to my understanding, coming out later this year. 165 million on a $10 million budget. Didn't like the first two, and then I haven't seen them in quite a few years, so I was not about to jog my memory on these. I didn't have to. It was, I'd like to play a game. No, I didn't want, I really just did not enjoy it. It was just kind of stupid watching, like the Battle of the Network Stars, like obstacle course of going through and, and doing all these different, see to get through, to get to the end. I mean, it was just really shitty. I know there's a lot of people that love this movie. Obviously, you again, 10 movies in a franchise. It's not because they're unsuccessful. My brother loves these movies, and I have been to family picnics where my brother has talked to people where he's like, the Saw movies are so good. They have it's all moral, all the only the bad people are tortured, and I just stand there with my beer and I'm gonna go get some more. I'm gonna go get some.
Greg's like, can I get some more potato salad over here?
No, I
Same
just
last name, but we're not related.
awful movie. I don't think you guys will probably disagree with me, but it's just I've not seen the rest of the franchise, to be fair, but I really have no intention of watching parts 4 through 10, as 1, 2, and 3 were shitty enough. So that was my picks, all 3.
Yeah, to me, that was like a franchise that came out that I think I was kind of excited about at the beginning, and the law of diminishing returns started happening very, very quickly.
Wasn't the 3 where they were trapped in the house? Are they wake up in a house in the one you watched, number three?
Three is where Jigsaw the kill is dying, and he has this woman do he kidnaps a doctor to do a surgery, a brain surgery on him, and meanwhile there's another guy he's running around like trying to do all these the doctor has this contraption around her neck that if Jigsaw dies, then therefore she dies. I mean, it was just and it's one of those where, again, knowing what I already know, that it's like, okay, well, he dies in this movie, but then they continue doing the franchise through flashbacks for the most part. So I mean, it's it just really bad in my opinion, and just not enjoyable. And again, it was one of those like torture porn type movies, and I mean, one of these came out every year from 2004 to 2010. I mean, every year. So it's a slog.
And they've rebooted it twice now. They brought it back with Jigsaw, and then Chris Rock did one. Remember that Spiral?
And then now the next one coming out is called Saw X for 10.
Because when you think of Saw, you think Chris bloody Rock. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I must admit, I've got good memories of the first Saw because I got a hand job in the back row watching that film when I was 19. I can't tell you. I can't tell you much about
what Saw film was this?
It was Seesaw at the back.
Seesaw.
It was an interesting evening, but the rest of the franchise, no, there was no hand job, so therefore, fuck them.
All right, Chris, your final pick of the day.
All right, my final pick. This movie definitely has a cult following, but I don't like it. Starring Bruce Campbell as like old Elvis. I just don't understand the love for
Bubba Hotep. Yeah.
Bubba Hotep.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I mean, I like Don Coscarelli. Beastmaster 1 is kind of fun. You know, some of the Phantasm movies are a fucking blast. But like Bruce Campbell and playing old Elvis and Ossie Davis, who's
JFK.
playing JFK. And they're in wheelchairs in an old folks home, and there's like a mummy, and they gotta stop the mummy, and that's the whole movie. But it's not funny at all. Like, none of the jokes land. There's not a ton of action, and there we go. I don't get it, you know?
Yeah, I've never gotten
that
either.
Campbell, but this one is over my head.
The author who wrote Bubba Hotep, his name is Joe R. Lansdale, who is tremendous.
Yep.
He has several other at least a couple that have become movies. One's called Cold in July.
I love that film.
And he had the television series that was on Sundance called Hap and Leonard,
which was very well done.
Based on a series of novels that he has, which are a lot of fun. Bubba Hotep is a short story which I have here. Might be 25 pages or so that they stretched out into that movie. The story's not even that good either.
No.
I mean, even if it was based on that, surely what they should have done is just take the idea and then do an actual all-out comedy. Because you've got Bruce Campbell as fucking Elvis, for fuck's sake.
I mean, listen, it could have been very funny. But
you don't play that. Why would you play that straight? Bruce Campbell as Elvis. Why would you possibly do that?
I got the poster up in my wall.
Yeah, I got a buddy who loves it. You know, my buddy Glenn. You know, he's got all sorts of Bubba. I even got him like a Bubba Hotep original one sheet signed by Don Coscarelli because it did play a very limited theatrical run. But
that was supposed to be a franchise. They all had plans for that to be. Yeah, you know.
I will say, Aloe, I text Pete the other day and I said, I'm going to take a guess that Aloe picks The Shining on Thursday.
You know, that was on my short list. It's not my favorite, but I don't dislike it as much as these others.
Okay.
It's okay. To me, it's not a horror classic. It's okay. It's a haunted house movie. It's all right.
The Stanley Kubrick film. That's what it's
It's gorgeous.
You know, it doesn't suck. I'd love to see that ending that they cut. Just because I like cutscenes. But But yeah.
Cool. All right, Dan.
Hey,
Your
okay.
final slaying of the night.
Oh, well, here we go. You're gonna probably think I'm in a state of arrested development, but you know, we all love vampires. You know, whether it be Bela Lugosi to Christopher Lee, and you got like the sexy vampires like Jerry Dandridge in Fright Night, and then you go like full on, you know, Lost Boys, whatever, and you go full on with like 30 Days of Night, which is like these vampires live in a dirty old Russian ship. They speak gibberish, some language, an ancient language. They don't bathe, they smell, they're filthy. You know, it's Danny Houston is the head vampire. So I like vampire films. So someone tells me about this series, and this is the reason why I hate myself, not the series. Hate myself. There's a series called Twilight. No. I said, oh, it's a vampire film, young people. What the fuck? I'm willing to watch many things, but I put it on. I'm watching it. Nothing's going on. First, you got a father who's a sheriff who is makes Barney Fife looks masculine compared to this guy. He's an idiot. And all of a sudden there's this young girl and she meets a young guy, and it's going on and on and on, and nothing happens. And then you find out they're a vampire, and they're all so fucking sad. They're all so sallow and pale. And she goes to visit him at his house, and she goes, "Where's your bed?" "I don't have a bed. I don't sleep." This fucker should take a nap. Seriously. He's just so depressing. Just take a fucking nap. Do this. And then you meet, they're all living together, looking out windows. You know, I'm waiting for somebody to get their jugular tearing out. Something. Let's get going. Next thing you know, it gets cloudy outside. And all of a sudden, oh, here it comes. Oh, shit. Money shot. Yeah, exactly. They go and they're playing fucking softball or baseball, and I'm going, what the fuck? Then we meet the werewolves. Okay, I mean, we're not talking about Lon Chaney, we're not talking about Chuck Connors in the TV show Werewolf, we're not talking about pre-brain damage Gary Busey the uncle in the Silver Bullet. We're not talking werewolves or no. These are young Indian men with shaved bodies with gym shorts running around, and I'm watching this. I'm going, is this like the Village People movie? You know, you can't stop the music. And I'm watching, and so I figured nothing happens in the first film. I said, something's got to happen. So I watched the second one.
Oh my goodness!
One movie too long.
Wow.
Go to the third one, and it keeps going, and I'm just sitting there like, why? Why? And then finally at the end, it's like there's this one sequence where they all have this huge, like, Viking worthy battle on a field of ice, and they're running at each other and they're ripping heads off and thing of that, and it's a fucking dream sequence. It just didn't happen. It's just like something that will happen if you don't, whatever it is, and that's how it ends. She has a baby. Does she die? I can't. But I sat and watched. What, all six of the and
What?
What?
You watched the
I
think you like it, Dan. I think you secretly like it.
No, waiting for shit. Well, I'll tell you something. I became so angry at myself, so obsessed, that like all the people who worked
bought a t-shirt.
Some of my guys, I turned around and I went to like what was those stores up, FYE store up in the mall. I went to
bought a t-shirt,
and they had like all this Twilight merchandise on closeout. So I gave everybody little frames with Edwin's picture in it. And I got cupcakes for them all, and saying, you know, and I said, I'm trying to pay penance for the fucking time I spent watching this shit. So anyhow, yeah, horrifying, bad, yeah, and I will never endorse nor non-endorse another tween series ever again. So
does anybody ever imagine we would have a Monsters Den where Dan would choose to talk about Twilight and the Hunger Games?
Yeah, well, hey, I'd say.
When did you become a 14-year-old girl, Dan?
Yeah. That's what happens, you know.
Doesn't she have a baby that like eats its way out or something?
Yeah, or something. I don't know. I mean, I just know.
That sounds too
cool. I was saying earlier.
No, but I think that happened in the book, but then like not in the movie or something.
No,
because it's a vampire baby, so it like eats its way out.
I'll have to go check on my 4K all the cut scenes. I'll see if it's in there, the original.
Yeah, your super deluxe box set.
No, but but these series that come out that are so popular, yes, they make money because they go to a certain. Look, I thought the Harry Potter films were fun, they're cute, they're not offensive, but some of these series that come in, it's like I say, why they make so much money?
Yeah, the Twilight.
I mean, I can understand Frozen with little kids in a cartoon, but
yeah,
so I watched it waiting for something to happen, and yeah, it was kind of like watching.
It's just Dawson's Creek with vampires, man.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The Notebook with vampires.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it was like watching an 8-hour version of Paranormal Activity. However, in the end, nobody gets thrown across the room and nobody leers into the camera. So that's
hey, what? Nobody looked at old Paleface and said, "There's Batman," though, did they? Jeez, Louise, that's a career he's had since then.
Well, that's
old Robert Pattinson. Yeah.
All right, Davey.
Well, I said we've been kind of joking since we thought of this. Shall we go full me in terms of picking something that is, you'd think on the face of it that person should absolutely love, and I thought this is as close as I can reasonably get to saying everybody and their granny would expect me to love this, and I don't. And I own 2 copies of it. That's how much I don't like it.
And Chris is like, yeah, I know what that's all about.
1959's The Mummy from Hammer.
What? With Christopher Lee?
With Christopher Lee.
You don't like that fucking movie?
He takes a shotgun and blows it.
Who's the fucking wanker now?
Drop the mic, Davey. Drop the mic.
Wow. Nobody saw that coming.
No.
It's the greatest mummy movie ever.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. And it doesn't even hold a
How's it
candle
feel,
to any of the Universal Mummy movies are better than this. Absolutely any of them. And this is the only film ever in which Peter Cushing is miscast. He is supposed to be a 25-year-old in it, and he's about 43 at the time they film it. He's treated like a young man in it. His performance is terrible. It looks great. It looks fantastic. But it is Jimmy Sangster, who is worked far too hard because he's just written 2 masterpieces. It is... Right. It is Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing running on empty because Peter Cushing doesn't want to be here anymore. He wants to be a star. And Christopher Lee is so sick of not getting lines in Hammer movies that he wants to move on as well, which he does. He quits Hammer straight after this production. He didn't like it. The best thing about it is the fucking
Wait, how
poster.
could Christopher Lee quit Hammer in 1959 if he was still making fucking Dracula movies in the 70s?
Because he came back. He was a tax exile.
Right,
he left
but that's
Hammer.
kind of... Okay.
Well, look, Dan, back me up. He left for 6
Oh,
years.
he left. He came back in 66.
That's why we got no Christopher Lee for 6 years because of this movie. This film is tedious. It is dull. The best parts of it are the Egyptian parts, which Christopher Lee's actually in. And all he does is stumble around and falls into a marsh, exactly the same marsh, I should point out, that the same fucking cast have already done that exact scene in Hound of the Baskervilles. It is the same marsh. That's how derivative this film is. It is not well written. Name me one good character in it. I could quote you 20 Van Helsing lines right now. I could quote you 20 Baron Frankenstein lines right now. Name me one line from this film that's memorable right now, even though Jimmy Sangster wrote it. Name me one thing that's memorable about Terence Fisher's direction in it. Absolutely nothing. Set design saves it entirely, and poster design, which actually gives you the one good thing. Peter Cushing pierces the mummy with the spear because he got the idea from the poster, which had been made before the film was even finished. But of the Hammer classics, this has got no right to be mentioned in the same breath as Dracula and The Curse of Frankenstein whatsoever.
Wow.
What's your thoughts of In the Court of the Crimson King?
I adore Court of the Crimson King. And there is a reason, right? There is a reason why Hammer, think of every Frankenstein movie they did and every Dracula movie, all in the same continuity. What did they do with this? Nothing.
Did you just hack him, Craig?
With this, they did nothing. They did 3 more Mummy movies, but they did not ever do a sequel to this. So they don't even fucking care about it at Hammer. So why should we?
Well, they made some other Hammer. They were sequels. The other Hammer.
None of them were all standalones. None of them were sequels.
Mummy Shrek.
Yeah, none of them were sequels. Yep, none of them were sequels. They were all
side boob.
I didn't see
all standalone movies.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I just like where he breaks through the glass and
it's fucking great. He shoots him with the shotgun and the spear. All right.
All right.
I didn't see that coming at all.
Listen,
The air
Europe
is
is the
thick.
true world, so
The air is thick.
that's what I learned.
No,
in this
the
episode.
real world.
This is what happens in
Real
the real
world.
world.
Thank you for
Chris.
the correction.
The Real World, season 4.
Real world.
Oh,
All right.
Check your news. You'll see why it's not real.
people on the other
Jeez
side
Louise.
attacking Chris and Peter. You know, they're attacking the mummy. Come
Well,
I love that
that's why
movie.
I
I
had.
love
That's
that
why I
movie.
have to pick this, because if I want to go in attack mode, I have to take it as well. So that, you know, to thine own self be true, to quote Polonius.
That's right.
See a Shakespeare reference from the real world there. You know what I mean?
Well, listen, I tried to watch Buckaroo Banzai once. I couldn't I made it like 20 minutes through and I turned it off.
Yeah.
Yes, thank
And
you.
I always mix that up with Remo Williams. But I think I
Which is
actually
also-
did make it
which
to
is
the end
also
of Remo
brilliant.
Williams.
Well, Kate Mulgrew's in that, so you should have done.
I don't like Buckaroo Banzai either. So without waving a flag, no, never been crazy about it.
But I like Remo Williams.
How do I follow that one? All right. Well, I mentioned on my last go around that there have been lots of zombie films that have come out in recent years that annoy me, that I don't like. So, you know, Shaun of the Dead is a perfect example of how to do a zombie comedy really, really well.
Dave, you can breathe now, Davey.
Breathe easily.
Yeah.
Zombieland, however, sucks. I don't find it funny. It's got a good cast. They all annoy me. Jesse Eisenberg is really annoying in this film.
What else is
Usually,
new?
I like Woody Harrelson. I've met him in person. He's a really nice guy, even though he's a weirdo. I don't really get behind him in this film either. Emma
Bill
Stone's
Murray's
kind of hot, but I find her very annoying. And I think they just go for cheap laughs throughout the whole movie. And again, it's another, like, let's make a post-apocalyptic zombie movie, but we're going to get lots of laughs out of it. And you know what? I just don't laugh at it. I don't find it funny. I remember going to see it in the theaters, and I was somewhat amused by it. And then I went and bought the Blu-ray when it came out, and then I rewatched it. I'm like, why did I buy this? This is not a really good film. And I sold it. I don't own it anymore. And then I go and I watch Shaun of the Dead. I'm like, that's how you do a horror comedy. That's how you do a zombie comedy. Done really well. Zombieland, to me, not memorable, not funny. Don't like it.
Oh, man, he's memorable.
Actually, there was another film. You ever see Juan of the Dead, the Spanish film?
Yes, that's
That
brilliant.
That's a fun-
for
that's a
no
fun-
budget movie.
Yeah, that's a
pretty
fun little
good.
film.
Or
Like,
there's
literally,
there's an
$10
Australian
budget?
there's an Australian zombie movie called Wormwood, which is really
Yes.
pretty
Yeah,
good
kind
too.
of like
Ma-
Mad Max meets like
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And there's One Cut of the Dead, which is fantastic as well.
That one I didn't like.
Of course not. It's good.
I like Train.
Sorry, Davey. I'm not living in the real world.
In Fantasyland.
Where we don't have school shootings and Donald Trump as our leader. Jeez Louise.
Oh no.
Here we
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
Should we all chant USA, USA, USA?
Get that guy a hot dog over there.
Do our Iron Sheik
Nice.
USA
All right.
Number one,
number one.
real world. Haktui.
We live in the surreal world.
I like Train to Busan as a zombie film.
That, was,
Just-
Yeah.
you know, that sequel was really good too.
Yeah,
I
that
like
was really
sequels,
good.
but-
Yeah.
You know something?
I forget what it was called,
They have Peninsula, the sequel. Peninsula.
was that what it was called?
Yeah, Peninsula.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Korea is a peninsula.
Okay.
But no, there's an American rights been bought for it. I don't know if it's been cast. They want to make an American version. Let's see how much they fuck it up.
Yeah, they'll fuck that up.
They'll fuck it up. They're guaranteed to.
There's
fuck
no
it up.
need to. It's good on its own. Yeah.
Zombieland had a sequel though, Double Tap. I never did see that.
I never did see
Way
it.
worse than the first one. I thought the first one was okay. I thought the second one was horrendously bad.
I saw the trailer for the second one and thought it looks like you made the same movie again. One of those sequels that's just a remake.
Somebody made a pilot for a TV show. It was either like Netflix or Amazon, and it did so bad they like instantly pulled it. But it was up like on the website for a short amount of time.
Zombieland?
Yeah, there was a Zombieland TV show in between.
Wow.
I think the first movie and the second movie, but it got such horrendous reviews, the pilot, that they yanked it. And I looked for it a couple times, and it, like you could click on the little picture for it, but you
Right.
couldn't actually watch the show. I don't know if it ever surfaced somewhere else online, but I always wanted to see it because I'm like, God, if it's that bad, like I gotta watch it.
It kind of
Well,
got
that's
back.
It was on Amazon.
Yeah, okay, maybe
Yeah.
that's what it was. Amazon.
The minute you pull something, everybody wants to see it. Like that Batgirl movie, we all want to see that now because they finished a whole movie and then didn't fucking release it. You know,
I was like that Wonder Woman TV show.
I did see that
10 years ago.
That was horrible.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw a chunk of that. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Dark Shadows 2004. That was pretty horrendous as well.
Oh,
Tried
the
a new
reboot
version
that
of
was
that.
in Big Cross. That was horrible. Oh,
Yeah.
you know.
So there you have it, everybody. Some very popular films that we just don't like at all. So
I'm exhausted.
let us know some of the real popular horror films that you just don't like down there in the comments below, down underneath Craig and Jamie there, hidden down below. So thanks for watching this episode of The Monsters Den. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Till
Every
next
2
time,
weeks.
for Craig, Jamie, Chris, Dan, and Davey, I am Pete. Have a good one, everybody. From
Good night.
The Monsters Den. See you.